That night, Zhan could not sleep. From the small window of the rented apartment on the outskirts of Paris, he stared at the rooftops frozen under the moonlight. The city's sounds faded into a distant hum, but his mind roared with a single image that refused to leave: Lucas holding Elena in front of the cafe that afternoon. He closed his eyes, only to see Elena's face even more clearly. For 2 years, he had built his life upon the shadow of that woman. Every day, every step, every decision always ended with the same question: what if I chase her? And now, when he finally stood before her, fate had placed another man between them. The next morning, Elena picked Zhan up. They walked through Montmartre, climbing narrow stairways and passing old shops. The cold bit into their skin, yet their hands remained tightly intertwined. "I'm sorry about yesterday," Elena finally said. "I should have told you about Lucas." Zhan gave a faint smile. "I didn't come to demand anything from you. I just wanted to see you." Elena stopped walking. She looked at him, her eyes filled with unspoken pain. "You're always like this," she said. "Always thinking of others before yourself." They sat on a stone bench overlooking the city. Paris spread beneath them like a vast painting. "Lucas is kind," Elena continued softly. "He helped me survive here. But he is not you." Zhan turned toward her. "Do you still love me?" he asked. Elena did not answer immediately. The wind lifted her hair, and for a moment she looked like a woman caught between two worlds. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "I only stopped hoping." Those words pierced deeper than anything Zhan had ever heard. The days that followed they spent together, wandering through museums, sitting in small cafes, speaking of the past and of a future that felt painfully uncertain. Yet behind every laugh lingered the shadow of Lucas: unanswered calls, ignored messages, and Elena's growing restlessness. One night, heavy rain fell. Zhan and Elena took shelter beneath the canopy of an old shop. Without realizing it, the distance between them disappeared. Their breaths met, and before logic could speak, their lips touched. The kiss was not long, not wild. Just two souls finally surrendering to feelings that had been imprisoned for too long. But when they pulled apart, Elena's face turned pale. "I can't do this," she said. "I will hurt everyone." Zhan did not insist. He only looked at the woman he loved, realizing that love does not always mean possession. The next day, Lucas came to Elena's apartment. Zhan heard their voices through the door. "I know about Zio," Lucas said quietly. "I'm not a fool, Elena." Silence. "What do you want from me?" Elena's voice trembled. "Honesty." When Lucas left, Elena emerged with eyes red from crying. "I have to make a decision," she said to Zhan. "And I'm afraid." They stood in the center of the small room, the world seeming to freeze around them. "Whatever your choice," Zhan said, "I will respect it." Elena looked at him for a long time, then broke down in tears. And in that moment, Zhan understood. Loving does not always mean winning. That morning, Paris felt quieter than usual. A thin mist wrapped around the streets, as if the city itself were holding its breath, waiting for a decision that would change 3 lives at once. Zhan sat on a small bench near the Seine, staring at the flowing water that kept moving, indifferent to the shattered hearts along its banks. Elena had not contacted him since last night. He knew that when someone asks for time, it usually means a war is raging inside them. And wars like that rarely leave a winner. Near noon, Elena finally arrived. Her face was pale, her steps heavy, her eyes carried a deep exhaustion. "I met Lucas this morning," she said without preamble. Zhan stood up. His heart was beating far too loudly. "We talked for a long time," Elena continued. "About everything. About you. About me. About the life we built here." Zhan waited, afraid to interrupt. "I hurt him," she whispered. "And I hurt you too." She lifted her face. Tears streamed down, unstoppable. "I love you, Zio. I have always loved you. But I have gone too far here. My life is bound, my work, my residence permit, everything. If I choose you, I would have to destroy it all." Her words struck Zhan's chest like hail. He looked at the woman who had made him cross half the world. "And if you don't choose me," he said quietly, "I will go home carrying all the pieces of myself." Elena gripped his hand tightly. "I don't want you to leave with a heart like that." Zhan gave a bitter smile. "Love doesn't always come to save us. Sometimes it only comes to teach us how deeply we can endure." Silence wrapped around them. Finally, Elena spoke. "I will stay here." The words fell softly, yet they shattered Zhan's world at once. He closed his eyes. His breath trembled. But he did not cry. "All right," he said after a long pause. "Then, I will go home." Elena sobbed. She held him tightly, as if she never wanted to let go. "I have never loved anyone the way I love you." Zhan brushed her hair gently. "And I have never regretted a single step I took to love you." That night, they walked through the city for the last time. There were no kisses, no promises. Only two people trying to memorize every detail of each other before fate closed their page. At the airport the next morning, Elena stood watching Zhan with his small bag and a face older than his years. "If one day life gives you the courage," Zhan said, "come find me in Shanghai." Elena cried, but she nodded. The plane took off. Paris vanished behind the clouds. And Zhan returned to his homeland as a man who had loved with his whole soul and lost without hatred. Yet, their story was not over. Because true love rarely ever truly ends. Shanghai welcomed Zhan with a pale sky and the familiar scent of rain. But the man who returned was no longer the man who had left. He carried invisible wounds, unheard silence, and memories that never truly faded. His days moved slowly. He returned to work, to his old apartment, to routines that once felt safe but now felt hollow. Sometimes, when night fell, he stood by the window, watching the city shimmer, and wondered if somewhere in another part of the world, Elena was also staring at the same sky. Time passed. Seasons changed. Until one afternoon in early spring, an envelope arrived at his apartment. There was no sender's name. Only one word in the corner, Prague. His hands trembled as he opened the letter. "Zio, I finally found the courage. I left everything behind. I don't know if you still remember your promise at the Paris airport, but I am coming to Shanghai. I am waiting for you at the small art gallery near the Bund. The place where we first met." The world stopped turning. Zhan ran. He did not care about the rain. He did not care about the red lights. He did not care about his burning lungs. All he knew was that his life was calling him home. At the small gallery, Elena stood before the same painting of the shipwreck. Her hair was longer, her face more mature, but her eyes still held the same world. When Elena turned and saw Zhan, she cried as she had on the day they first parted. "I'm home," she said. Zhan stepped forward, held her in his arms, and for the first time, there was no fear, no distance, no country separating them. Only two souls who had finally chosen each other. Sometimes, love must wander far to find its way home. Sometimes, loss is the only road to certainty. And sometimes, the person we chase to the ends of the earth returns at last to the place where we have been waiting. The end.